When a man willing to make these type of sacrifice, what's happening to the woman that's behind that? Are you just okay? You're just going along, because women want safety. They want to make sure you're taken care of.
Right.
How were you during that time, Mother Carol?
During the time when he was getting out of the military, of course there was a little bit of fear there, but I was always taught not to express your fear, because he's a man in the military that would go to different conflicts and things like that. You always want him to be secure with home. So if he knew that I was okay, he would be okay, and that would bring him back to me. Because when you have women that are pulling and tugging on their husbands, don't go, knowing that they may not come back, in that man's minds, he's worried about his wife. That could be a bullet that he doesn't dodge. So having that mindset, I didn't want him worried. So I would agree. I'd say, okay, well, we're going to get out of the military. Let's start making plans and things like that. And then as I saw the Father doing more for us, as we stood more for the Father, it brought more faith to me.
Everybody's inquiring, how did Straitway come about? How did we get to this point? And they can tell and sense that it's like something is catching fire. It's growing, because they can see the happiness, they can see the joy, they see the peace that is being obtained. They can see we're very serious about this walk.
So now Pastor Dell's, getting out of the military. He's now, where is this whole thing with where he started ministering? Did he become a pastor before he started Straitway, or? He
was ordained a pastor when we left Fort Polk.
Okay.
He was ordained a pastor, so he came home to start a work here in Tennessee. A lot of our family was here, so naturally we wanted to, get our family in on this. So of course he started preaching to everyone. He would preach to the drug dealers in the heart of East Nashville, where it wasn't really safe, but the Father was always with him. So, the Father started, at first it was just us in our little apartment, and then more people would come. His parents came along, and then Brother Shane came along through another brother, and it just started to grow from there.
So how was it like, Pastor, just preaching to you guys, just you, the two children? I mean, how was it like the dynamic that we see today? Or
we knew it wouldn't be exactly like it is today, with the same intensity, with the same drive, as if he were preaching to 1,000 people. He would turn the recliner around, and we would get up, we would dress for Shabbat, as if we're coming up in here in this tabernacle. Wow. And we did that from the very begining.
Wow. So you've seen him from the pulpit, from the couch to the pulpit.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Everything.
So then when you guys got this land, were you big? Were you excited, getting the land and everything?
Actually, yes. We were very excited. We were downsizing for a while.
Okay.
We were paying off debt, we sold everything, sold pretty much everything we had to save for the land. So we were excited because we did get to see other communities.
Okay.
Pastor heard on the radio, heard other preachers that were trying this and things like that. So there are other communities out there. So we would go and visit, and we would see what they would be doing and things like that. And so we were excited to actually get to do it ourselves.
So you guys, and I know you guys, like you said, visited other communities and stuff. So when you finally got to live on community, I mean, were you excited as you were coming into it, or did things change?
Well, at first, when Pastor was like, okay, we're going to get land and we're going to live in a trailer. A trailer? I'm not living in a trailer. Mm-hmm. But once we got our trailer, I loved my little trailer. So,
okay. Because you're a city girl.
I was a city girl.
Yeah.
It's a stepping stone to where we are now. And, it was very humble beginnings, but I'm very thankful for our humble beginnings because, now I see how it's able to bless others by our sacrifice. Because especially the first year, 1998, we moved on this community in May. So it's been 21 years this month, and we worked from sunup to sundown, and if you see the pictures, there was nothing here, nothing hardly. So we would filter people through one home, and then we would be given trailers, and they would be very run down. They would have to put the little bit we had to it to fix them up, because we put everything that we had into this land, and the saints that came with us did as well. So,
did the other communities have trailers too? Or did you guys get?
Yes.
Okay, so you saw.
Yes.
That's because the idea. Now I noticed that when I was looking at some pictures, it was very colorful.
Very colorful.
And I know that the home that you guys stayed in was purple and pink and stuff like that. I mean, please tell us about that.
That's a loving husband, isn't it? To live in a purple and pink trailer.
Pastor he's very comfortable in his skin, right?
Yes, he's very comfortable in his skin. But, he said that the Father loves color. The Father loves colors, so that's why the trailers were so colorful.
So did you guys pick all the color? I mean, it looked like a rainbow out there.
It was beautiful.
Beautiful.
He would just whatever colors we could afford or was on clearance or something like that. But, some of it was strategic. But, like our trailer was strategic. I wanted pink and purple.
Okay.
So he's like, okay.
That's
so
cool.
He said pick the colors. So he shouldn't have told me that. But we're very thankful. But he said that the Most High loves color. He created all the colors, so he loves color.
So what made
that's
you?
Why they were colorful.
What made you guys go back to now? I mean, to a more it's more green and brown and stuff like that. What did that change? I guess, and why did it change?
Well, I guess there's a lot of we know that we're out there, but we also don't want to draw so much attention to ourselves. We get choppers that drive over and things like that. So, just we know that we're protected by the Most High, that He surrounds this land, His angels. But, we don't want to give them anything either. So He just decided to neutralize the community.
Okay, that's good.
Make everything pretty basic.
Well, I'm glad it's here. So you guys in the early stage, Daddy Dow and Mama Dow stayed in the original, I guess it was a home here. Was it a trailer or a home?
They stayed with the trailer the home that they're in now was a double wide. That was the original one that Pastor and I moved into when we first came here. And then they came, and we would filter almost everyone through that trailer because it was the only bathroom on the land.
Okay.
And then we eventually turned, as we would get more trailers and be able to fix them up, we would rotate more saints in there, and we turned it into our dining hall.
Dining hall and everything. And now even the home that you guys are in right now used to be the community
Fellowship hall.
Fellowship hall, right?
Yes.
So that was it? I mean, was that the kitchen too? Or what was in the
fellowship hall was actually so the saints could have fun. Pastor was a young pastor, and he believed in us bonding and having a good time, loving life. So he built a little room where we had ping pong, and we had a weight room in the back, and, just all kinds of activities. We had... they had games in it, and we would have game night, once a week, and we would eat and things like that. So he always wanted to make it a healthy, festive lifestyle for the saints.
So a lot has happened in the 20 years that you guys been here, right? So you've had different waves of people. A pastor has a saying that adds by subtracting and multiply by dividing, and you have seen a lot of that. From what I heard, you had from peeing in the bucket, that caused some people to kind of like, hey, this is not for me, or from head cover to deliverance to polygyny, the big one, the polygyny. Out of all of those different things, which one was the hardest one for you? I mean, I know this was your husband, you've been doing this stuff, but which one was the hardest one that you had to really like push through and overcome? And I know there's a lot, but just if you'd be willing to share.
A lot of the things that we did, the transitions, were okay, because I knew that we were growing from here. All of us at the time when deliverance came, we needed deliverance. We needed it bad. We were hurting from rejections and just all kinds of things that all the saints had been through. We all needed deliverance. So when you hear the stories of us going through deliverance day after day after day, we did. We needed it. And we knew we needed it. This was what was going to set us free. But I would say the hardest thing for me was polygyny. And I'll tell you my little background on that. I had always told Pastor that, I didn't believe it was for this time. He said, polygyny's in the Bible, and they did it. And I said, well, I don't believe it's for this time. He said, well, you have scripture to back it up? I'm like, yes, I do. So, but I really didn't. But I thought I did. So believe it was, this was before he started, I would probably say later that year, probably towards the end of that year or the end of that summer, he started speaking on it. But he hadn't spoken on it. But it was a conversation that we would have. He would agree and I would disagree. So one day he was preaching and he said, what would be the one thing scripturally that could keep you from the kingdom? That he wasn't talking about polygyny. He was just saying, know your temptation. What is the one thing that could keep you out of the kingdom? And I knew what mine was. So I didn't say anything to him about it. I started really, really getting into the word about it. I fasted, I prayed, and I fasted, and I prayed, and I fasted, and I prayed. And I lost like 50 pounds from fasting and praying. And then I believe it was probably around the September of that year. I don't even remember what year it was, but I said, honey, I know that a man can have more than one wife. Because just the thought of it all before then broke my heart. And I didn't want to think about that. So if just the thought was breaking my heart, I knew I had to do something. I had to change my heart. And so in talking with the Father, reading the Word, he would send me to scriptures, and then I would see it open up, and then I would see how the beauty of it can be. And so I changed my heart, and then the Father did the rest. And I'm so thankful.
And you know that, people will say that you being married, or a lot of the women here, and you're the lead woman here at Straitway, but that they don't have brains, or they're just going around just following. And so you obviously were going through a situation where you disagreed, obviously, as you guys were working through this stuff out, and you were able to overcome. But when you hear people say that about the sisters here, how does that make you feel? I mean, I know maybe you feel different, but how would that make you feel when you start hearing people describe the women here being oppressed or don't have any freedom?
I feel sorry for people that think like that, because we all have a story. We've all come from something. We're not mindless minions, even though we may appear to be. We're not mindless. We're meek, and that's as it should be. We've come from jobs. There's women here that are very highly educated. I didn't go to college, but one of the jobs I had, I was the ATM representative for the state of Tennessee for a bank. So we're not mindless. We do have a mind, but we have a love for the Father that supersedes any characteristic or any nature that is expected of us. So to be a dominating woman that is loud and boastful and not submissive, I feel sorry for women like that.
I mean, you dabble in modeling,
yes, sir.
And you guys didn't come in starting this stuff with head covers.
No.
How was that? Knowing that hair is a big deal to women. I learned that the hard way.
Right.
But how was that for you going through that process? I mean, I know it's not as big as the polygyny, but how was that giving up covering your head as opposed to what you used to do as you're a beautiful woman, obviously, and a model. How did you overcome that?
We started out kind of slow, not really fully. We had an understanding, but I think most of the sisters, well, not most, there's some that did kick. I don't think it was that bad. putting on a head covering. It was just getting used to seeing yourself with a head covering all the time, learning how to make it work for you. We started out with a little piece of lace and things like that until we, progressed to things like this. And some of the sisters had, now to me, it just symbolizes a woman of beauty in Hebrew. And, our hair, because hair is alluring. Hair can draw. And to the women that had a hard time covering, I saw that, sometimes they want the draw. And so you have to push past that. You have to get used to seeing yourself in a different way. But then you still are allowed to be able to give yourself fully to your husband. And wearing a head covering, you are able to fully give yourself to a husband that nobody else can share. So I like the beauty of it.
How about not wearing the makeup? Were you into makeup?
I wore makeup when I modeled, and I wore light makeup. I wasn't a just heavy packer like they do now. They can change their whole face. Back then, like I said, in the 80s, I wore makeup from probably about 15, 16 to 25, and that's about my stench of makeup. So it wasn't that hard to give up. The mascara and eyeliner was a little bit more difficult because I have small eyes, and I just wanted to make them bigger. But my husband would tell me, you don't need that. You don't need all of that on. And, and I, even though he would tell me that, my mind wouldn't fully believe it, even though it wasn't that hard to give up. But one day, I think I was at home at my mother's house, and I looked in the mirror, and Yah said, why can't you be beautiful in my eyes? And of course, that was another wake up. So I'm like, Father, I'll never put it on again. If that's what you see, I want to be beautiful for you. I don't care about what the world thinks. So,
what you've been being the mother in this ministry. You get a lot of sisters that come to you for advice. And what is and you have this in your head, but what's the most common theme that the women struggle coming into this truth that you are seeing just over the time? And what is your advice to them to overcome those things?
At first, it was giving up dress with, like, let's go back maybe 15, 20 years. It was the women giving up their dress, putting on a head covering. I think now I'm seeing such a shift in the Daughters of Zion. Now we're getting people that are so serious about the Father that are coming in, not all, but a lot, that they're quick to give it up. And it's a beauty in that. I'm seeing a real love for the Father when they're able to do it because they want to do it, not because they're forced. But now as we transition years later, as polygyny is, we know the truth about polygyny and it's our culture, I think that's what I get counseling about more so, but not in the way that you would think. Women are not having as big of a problem with it as a lot of people think. They're just worried about what's coming in. They just want to make sure that the woman wants to assimilate to the whole family, not just the husband, because truth be told, you do see it, but they're wanting to be accepted by the woman just as much as the man would. Women desire companionship from women that they can't get from men. There's a bond of emotions that we share, and if you have a sister wife that you can share with, that is very close to you, because you share more than just a bond of being friends. You share a husband, you share a man, so there's similarities that you're going to have that you can't really get from anyone else, I would think. So
what's the biggest when it comes to polygyny, what is the let me see how to phrase this, but what is the biggest thing that you was fearful of when Pastor Dow was obviously talking about it, and you went through your transition of coming to terms? But what was the, I know you say it broke your heart, but what was the thing that you would fear that you feared at the time, but now you see it's not what it was all cracked up to be? But
right.
Does that make sense? Okay.
I think I feared what would be coming in. I know that Pastor has always been a very good provider. He's always loved me and cared for me, so that wasn't in jeopardy, but I just didn't know what I would be receiving out of it, if that makes any sense. So
When you say receiving, you mean the woman that's coming in?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Because, I know women, and we can be terrible. We can be terrible, or we can be pleasant. And, some women just don't want contention, and I just didn't want any contention hearing about it coming in. So that, the fears were pretty much not what I already had with him, but what our life would be like. You picture this perfect little world of fantasy with, just you and your husband and 2.5 children and a dog and a white fence. And our culture is so strong and so beautiful that all of the fears go away when you think about how Yah designed it for our people. And a true wife really wants her husband to be like a king, to prosper. Prosper is not with one. So, a lot of a mind adjustment had to set forth for me because I grew up American just like anyone else, and it wasn't my culture.
Well, out there in the world, the woman is a matriarch more.
Right.
So the woman, everything revolves around the woman.
Right.
And obviously in the Hebrew culture, more things revolve around the man, clearly. Knowing that that's out there, now obviously you're older and you love your husband and things of that nature, but can you see, I guess, why would a woman who's in the world want to come into this when they know everything revolves around them? What is the benefit of being in your role where now it doesn't revolve around you, it revolves around the man?
We're covered, we're protected, we're loved by the Father, we're loved by our husband. I can't see why it wouldn't. It's not you're losing something, you're gaining something coming into this way and coming into our culture. You're gaining a place where you can have a relationship with the Father, whereas you don't get that out in the world, being matriarchal. And your husband takes on so much responsibility for you and protects you so much that you're able to develop a relationship with the Father. So I can't see it as a loss. And I know it's sad what I see out there, the way that women are, the way they speak to their husbands, and I'm like, wow, it's foreign to me. So it's really sad, the mindset that is put out there for women to dominate over their husbands when it's a husband's joy and it's his desire to make sure that you are happy, provided for, protected, content, and things like that. And for a woman to not want that, and it's, they see themselves as just servants, but it's not that.
What is the beauty about polygyny? A lot of people think that it's bad, but what is it that you have learned now that you've embraced this lifestyle or embraced the idea of polygyny? What's the beauty about polygyny?
Well, I think it will protect all women. Women desire to have a covering, and let me give an example. If there's a woman that is single, children, and the chance of her never getting married or something like that, because I would want for my sister what I would want for myself. And if I ever got into a situation where my husband were not around and I needed to be covered, I'm an older woman. I'm not going to be fresh pickings for anyone, but if you could bring it to a family wisdom, maturity, soundness, a balance, why wouldn't you want that for your sister? Why wouldn't you want to welcome someone in to bless your husband so that he is full? I think that I see the men that are in polygyny, I see them as whole. I see them as fulfilled. If it's done right now. Now, for situations that aren't, I see them jacked up as well. But for those that do it right, I see a fulfillment and a kingship on the husband that brings about such a stability. And in the wives, it brings about a stability because they have a teamship to take care of this man. It's not a competition. It's not a jealousy. It's like a king being able to increase, and that's how I see it. So wanting for your sister what you would want someone to do for you, would you want to be accepted into a family? Would you want to be received? That's exactly how you should treat another sister coming in. So
when I first came into to Straitway, I remember seeing you, doing it. I was telling you earlier, and I'm surprised that you didn't know this though, but to see a black woman in her role submitted to her husband, it's foreign. I mean, that's not a normal scene. You may see Asian women or white women, but not a black woman. I mean, when we were talking about what did you think about it? Because you said that you didn't know that. I mean,
I didn't know there was a stigma on black women. I had no idea until being on this community after many years. I grew up military and traveled a lot, so I saw a lot of diversity. I also watched my mother, my dad was patriarchal. I kid you not. He was a man. He was a drill sergeant in the military. So all my yes sir started when I was very young. So I wasn't used to seeing what I was hearing about black women. So it took me by surprise. I thought, we're not all the same. But, now that, I see what's out there and I'm like, wow, I can't believe they act like that. It actually shames me for my people.
Well, 20 years in the ministry, you guys, when you guys came here, did you ever think the ministry would be where it is today? I mean, when in those early days, did you ever say like, oh, one day it's going to just blow out the scene? I mean, how did you guys see it back then? Well,
we saw a lot of people come and go, a lot. But we never thought it would be this big where we have to build a whole nother tabernacle. I didn't. He may have seen it, but I didn't.
You didn't see it?
I didn't see it being this big.
You guys said there was a guy that prophesied that there would be cars. Can you tell us about that?
That was Brother Ernie. Him and his wife are both buried in our cemetery there. He said that it's going to be so many people here, y'all are not going to have room for all the cars to park. That was, I think, what he had said. And now we're definitely seeing it come to pass. We have to use the neighbor's land to park.
Wow.
So, I figured it would get bigger, but it's amazing to see how many people are waking up. But what really blesses us is the seriousness of people. Now, like I say not all, but some, because we've seen a lot of people just come for the loaves and fishes. We've seen a lot of people just come for the healings, and then we never see them again. They've never turned back to say thanks. So a lot of riffraff. But now people are coming into the ministry that are really serious about serving the Most High, and that's our greatest reward.
When you say serious, what do you mean? So this is the next generation coming, or what do you mean serious?
Like people that say that I saw Pastor on the internet. I was searching. I was crying out to the Father, and I was really seeking, and I was searching. And then I came across Pastor's video. That blesses us, because you were already looking for what the Father was going to give you. And you don't come by this way by chance.
You guys have, like I think about me and just other people who's coming to stuff. If you guys didn't do what you did long ago, when we were searching, there wouldn't be a place to come and actually experience that. What do you say to all the people that come, that's going to be coming behind you? I mean, Pastor Dow acknowledged you and all the people that were there in the early years, holding them up, that there wouldn't be a Straitway. There wouldn't, and he gave you a lot of credit. What do you say to the people who's coming behind you? You say we're serious-minded, but what would be your advice to us as we go on this journey, and pray that we have the longevity that you guys have shown and continue to show?
I guess the main thing I would say is you can be perfect. We're all striving, but, we're learning so much about the Father and in the Word that you can be perfect. You can live so that the Father can receive you in the end. So go and be perfect. Be perfect right in the area that you're in. Do it to the best of your ability. Serve Yah to the best of your ability, and don't lose it. Don't let the world distract you. There's so many distractions out there now that I can't even understand. Living here for 21 years, we're a bit sheltered. There's so much perversion out there, I can't even stand it. And, let your holiness guide you. Let your holiness be a standard that no matter what's around you, you'll stand by that. And that has to be in your heart. It's not something anybody can give you.
Let me ask you this question. You didn't come into this Pastor Dow, it started with him, and then that kind of triggered you.
Yes.
So what is the key to your longevity of following a man like Pastor Dow is a hard act to follow, but you are following him. What is the key to your longevity of following him through all the ups and downs?
Well, he's going to get me to the kingdom. He's going to lead me to the kingdom. He had a dream, and I'm not sure if he spoke about it in his Berean Moment, but he had a dream. He was near a mountain, at the bottom of a mountain. There was water, like a creek or something present. This was when he first became a believer. And he said there was about 30 people around him. And we were climbing up a mountain. He said he saw our children were still little, which they're grown now. But I know the Father wouldn't allow him to see them at a certain age, because then he could pinpoint his coming. But he said that the children were little and they were playing, and we were all going up this mountain to meet the Father, and he woke up or something like that. And he said, I know that everybody that's with me is going to make it to the kingdom. And one, I hold on to that. And two, he's equipped me so much. The Father has given him so much wisdom and knowledge on how to deal with me and how to make sure that I have a true relationship with the Father. And I say by not babying me, by allowing me to go through things spiritually to where the Father is the one I have to cry out to. If you give a woman so much and she never has to lean on the Father for anything, she'll be unbalanced. So he's made sure that I was balanced spiritually. So if anything ever happened to him, tunnel vision, I'm still on that narrow path. So I'm very thankful that the Father blessed me with somebody that cared enough for my soul that would make sure I made it in.
Hallelujah. Mother Carol, thank you so much for sitting with us. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing how this ministry has been a blessing to you. Thank you.
Thank you.